Welcome back to the Logan's Lines podcast. I'm your host, Logan, and today we are going to be talking about the SEC Media Days Part 2. If you hadn't seen Part 1, go ahead and check that out. And we talked about a couple of teams over there, so go ahead and check that out. But first, before I get into this video, I want to give my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for giving me this opportunity to talk about sports. And for those who can't play sports or who just can't play sports but love sports like myself, I love talking to people. So if you ever want to reach out, please reach out through YouTube. That's probably the best. The YouTube comments down below. So that's probably the best way to reach me, and I will answer all y'all's comments. So first, we're going to get into LSU. First, we'll start with the positive, and that's Lane Kiffin, of course. Lane Kiffin coming over from Ole Miss, a little bit of shocker, but not really. I mean, he's bounced around a lot of teams before he got to LSU. Ole Miss last year, Tennessee, the Raiders, USC, a lot of teams, but I think he's found his place. Hopefully in Baton Rouge, he kind of fits that mold as well. So that's one of my positives. The other positive for LSU this upcoming season is quarterback play. They get a transfer, Sam Leavitt, from Arizona State, and I think he'll be great. He lit up numbers at Arizona State under Kenny Dillingham, and I think with Lane Kiffin's previous quarterbacks, I think he'll do a terrific job with Sam Leavitt, Lane Kiffin. But yeah, those are my two positives, and my negative is really everybody's negative, and the Lane Kiffin experience is the defense. They get Charlie Wise Jr. from Ole Miss. He just transferred basically to LSU with Lane Kiffin. So that is a huge, huge pickup for Lane Kiffin. But will the defense really pick up the slack? Who knows? One thing that we will know is there's going to be a lot of high-scoring games down in Baton Rouge and wherever you go. In that Week 3 game between LSU and Ole Miss, which College Game Day has pretty much announced that's where they're going without announcing it, it's going to be unbelievable in Oxford. I don't know. I think it'll be worse for Lane Kiffin going to LSU or going to Ole Miss rather than going to Tennessee. Of course, we saw a couple of years ago when Lane Kiffin went back to Tennessee with Ole Miss, he got thrown golf balls at, but I don't know. We'll see what Ole Miss does. They were very, very upset, as they should, with the Lane Kiffin departure. But that's my negative, is really the defense. So next, we'll get into Mississippi State. Their positive is Jeff Lebby. I like Jeff Lebby. He got in. He did go 5-7 last year. Did beat a couple of good teams, including Arizona State. Almost beat Texas, had a 17-point lead over Texas, a.k.a. the Brandon Walker experience. And honestly, I have high hopes for Jeff Lebby. I hope Mississippi State gets the ball rolling. I feel like there's 3 teams that make the SEC better, and that's Florida, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. But my other positive, they bring in star quarterback A.J. Swann from Appalachian State, arguably the best group of 5 quarterback in the portal this season, or this offseason. So we'll see how Jeff Lebby and that offense develops A.J. Swann as they go. And their negative is the month of October. I think they got to play Texas, Georgia, and I think LSU all in 1 month, and they also got to play Missouri in there. But they all got to, that month of October is pretty rough, and they also got to play Alabama too. So our next team is going to be Missouri. My positive for them is the quarterback play, Austin Simmons. You might be familiar with him coming over from Ole Miss. He started the year off with Lane Kiffin as the starting quarterback. Then they went another direction with Trinidad Chambliss, and that honestly was the better option obviously in everybody's opinions. And the next positive is Ahmad Hardy. Ahmad Hardy is he's arguably the best, one of the best running backs in the SEC if he's healthy. He hasn't had any injury issues in the past, but this offseason he got an injury, a leg injury that was significant, and hopefully he's ready to go by this here in a couple of months. But I'm super excited for the Missouri offense this season. Their negative is the offensive line and Josh Atkins. They lose Josh Atkins for now. He has a lower left leg injury. So we'll see where he goes, and the offensive line kind of shaky, and their secondary also kind of shaky as well. They've also had a great defensive line over the past years under Elijah Drinkwitz. So I'm very high on Missouri. My next team is going to be Oklahoma. My positive is John Mateer. John Mateer, if he's healthy, he was the Heisman front runner, no question. And before he got hurt and he broke his hand, he was out 6 weeks, and then came back and he was just a different quarterback. From then on out, not 100%, if not 100% sure that he was 100% or not. And the other positive is Brent Venables and his defense. His defensive line, who just racked up sacks on almost every SEC team last season. They bring majority of their guys back, and we'll be excited to see where they go. And I'm also excited for their playoff run to see where that goes. I think I'm very high on Oklahoma, probably more than anybody else. So I'm a big believer in Oklahoma and Brent Venables. Their negative is John Mateer. And the reason why I say that, I said it because of the positive, is because if he's healthy, again, he's a great quarterback. Like we saw the first 6 weeks, he was dominating college football, but those last 6 weeks were kind of shaky, kind of rough. And obviously that was because of the hand injury. But if he can stay healthy, he will be an awesome quarterback. But if he is not healthy or not 100%, he just in those last couple of games there, he forced the football. He wasn't very smart with the football, throwing interceptions, turnovers, those kind of things. And then the other negative for Oklahoma is they have a good offensive line, but it's thin. They don't have much depth back there in the offensive line, so I'd say that's my other negative. For the Ole Miss Rebels, my positive, of course, the quarterback-running back duo between Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacey. The fact that they kept those two quarterback-running back is awesome. They retain them, and let's see what Pete Golding does with those two players, which I think he'll do an amazing job. He took over for Lane Kiffin in the college football playoff, and he made it to the college football playoff semifinal. And their negative is going to be Pete Golding. I don't know. I'm not a I'm a believer in Pete Golding this season, but am I a believer in Pete Golding in years, in the future years? I think it will be a interesting story to oversee. I don't think he's a bad coach or anything, but will he be will he be good in the future for the Rebels? And their downfall, or their other negative, is the defense. That's typical for Ole Miss. They've always had a bad defense, even before Lane Kiffin, or had a bad defense with Hugh Freeze. Obviously, they've had some good coaches come through Oxford with a high explosive offense, but just not a great defense. So, is going to be South Carolina. The Gamecocks had a struggling year last year, went 4-8. High hopes for last season. Returned Lenore Sellers and Nick Harbor like they do this year. And that defense is very explosive. The defensive line, they always have a good defensive line. And I think those three, Lenore Sellers, Nick Harbor, and the defense, will be their positives. But can they get past the negatives? And those two big negatives, or three big negatives, are Shane Beamer, who can't seem to win. He'll win one big game a year, but can he win multiple big games a year? Can he win the close games like a couple years ago when he went toe-to-toe with Alabama, but came up short? Can he beat, the LSUs like they almost did a couple of years ago? But Shane Beamer, I think it's a make it or break it year for him. And the other negative is the offensive line. And they've always struggled in the last 3 years that they've had Lenore Sellers. And I think that will be one big negative for South Carolina. And the other negative is their strength of schedule. They play a tough strength of schedule. They go to play Alabama in Tuscaloosa for the third straight year again. Or not in Tuscaloosa, but they have to play Alabama for the third straight year. They also have to play LSU on the road, which is also going to be tough. I believe that is a night game. Of course, you have to play your annual opponents like Georgia, like Tennessee, like Florida. So it's going to be a gauntlet for South Carolina. So I'd say that's my three big negatives for South. Next up, we have the Tennessee Volunteers. And Tennessee coming off of a 9-4 season under Josh Heupel, his fifth year, heading into his fifth year. For Tennessee, the positive is that defensive coordinator Jim Knowles comes over from Ohio State, a fantastic pickup for Tennessee and that defense. And also 12 new portal additions. They pick up edge rusher Josh Atkins from App State, I believe. And he's also hurt right now, but getting back to what he should be back by this season. And their negative is their quarterback play, George McIntyre and Braden Faison. And it's not like they're bad or anything. It's just one of those battles. Who can see who fits Josh Heupel's offense? Because if you look back on Josh Heupel's quarterbacks, you go all the way back to UCF, Dylan Gabriel, Mackenzie Milton, Hendon Hooker at Tennessee, and Joey Aguilar, and I think that's it for quarterbacks. But yeah, that's their negative, and the other one is the D-line. They're very good, just not as strong this year for the Volunteers. So that is Tennessee's rundown. This A&M up next. Their positive is they return their star quarterback in Marcel Reed, who just had a great year last year. Kind of struggled towards the end, but I think he's set for a big season this year for the Aggies. And their other positive is going to be a strong secondary. A&M is known for their defense. Mike Elko kind of resembles that defensive grittiness and coming over from Duke 2 years ago. But I'm a big believer in Mike Elko from getting to the playoffs last year, and we'll see what he does this year. And his negative, or Texas A&M's negatives, is going to be Colin Klein leaving the offensive coordinator, the former Kansas State quarterback, now the Kansas State coach. He's gone as the Texas A&M offensive coordinator, and they also lose big roster spots, as I mentioned, on the defensive line. But some Concepcion is gone, I believe, which is a big loss. He was their leading. I think it was his leading receiver. But they do get Isaiah Horton, a transfer from Alabama or Miami and Alabama. But that is a huge pickup, so they replenish that a little bit. So we'll see how he does in the A&M offense. So next, we'll be talking about the Texas Longhorns. I mean, it's hard to see a negative here because it's just really hard. Their positives are obviously their quarterback, their wide receivers, and the running back. So Arch Manning, the wide receiver room, and the running back room. They return Arch Manning for his junior year, I believe, or his senior year maybe. They get Cam Coleman from Auburn, almost Alabama, but came up just a little short. But they retain. They also retain Wingo from them. And they also get a top running back in the transfer portal, and that was Hollywood Smothers. He had originally committed to Alabama, then flipped to Texas when Cam Coleman left or decided to pick Texas. So he's kind of whatever. And that offense is going to be special. And the defense is pretty much stacked too. They got their defensive line. They've got their guys. So Texas is going to be one of the better team, if not the best team this season. Their negative is their strength of schedule, like anybody else's in the SEC. They've got to play, I think, Georgia. They got to play Texas A&M. They got to play Missouri, I think, on the top of my head. But their strength of schedule is not easy. And the other negative is Steve Sarkisian. They got to win. He's got to win. Like, they don't have a better roster, maybe other than, like, back when Quinn Ewers, I shouldn't say back when, but when Quinn Ewers played there at Texas, they made it to the semifinal. But this year has got to be the year for Texas. Like, they are absolutely stacked from the offense to the defense. They are just, it's unreal. But they've got to win. So my last team that I'm going to talk about is the Vanderbilt Commodores. Their positive is Clark Lee. They return Clark Lee and his recent success, coming off of a 10-win season last year. I know they had Pavia and Stowers and all those guys, but I think he'll do just fine at Vandy. I think he'll stay at Vandy. If he was going to leave Vandy, it would have been this year, but he decided to stay. And they also got 5-star quarterback. He's a freshman, Jared Curtis. So one of the better quarterbacks in the recruiting class this year. And their negative, like I said, losing Pavia, losing Stowers. it's their roster turnover. I mean, it's hard to retain those guys, and honestly, you can't retain Pavia and Stowers because they're out of eligibility. Pavia's been out of eligibility for a while. And their other negative is their tough road schedule. I think they got to play Georgia, Texas, Florida. I think they got to play on the road. Auburn, maybe. Or they play Alabama at home. So those are my couple of SEC teams, or all the SEC teams. That was part 2. If you all like this video, give this a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you all for watching, and God bless.